Welcome to Talkin Tires, the podcast that delves deep into the world of tires. Join us as we explore everything from the science behind the manufacturing to the latest innovations in tire recycling. Our aim is to provide you with a comprehensive understanding of tires, including how they work, how to maintain them, and how to dispose of them responsibly. Whether you're a seasoned mechanic, curious car enthusiast, or an avid recycler, Talkin Tires is the perfect podcast for anyone who wants to learn about the essential component of the modern vehicle and heavy equipment. So buckle up and join us for an informative and engaging journey into the world of tires. All right, welcome back to another episode of Talkin Tires. I'm your host, Craig Hunter, the president of Tire Reclaim, and I'm here with Rick Welle of Rubberosion out of Colorado, the owner and founder of this company, and we're super excited to learn some more about Rick and how he got into the industry and what he's doing in the industry. So welcome, Rick.
Yeah. Hi, Craig. It's great to be here with you. Super excited to sit down and do some talking to tires with you.
Yeah, so that's kind of, what we do here at Talkin Tires is we have our own challenges in the tire recycling industry, and we're learning and meeting new people in all facets of tires. So from manufacturers to recyclers and everything in between, collectors. And we've met with a lot of different business owners and business types. And I like to get to know the person and then, what happened and where you're at now and kind of what challenges or things you're excited about in the future. So just getting started, I mean, really, how did you find the tire recycling industry? Or I guess in a lot of cases, how did the industry find you is what I've learned.
Yeah, no, great question. And in all honesty, Craig, I was born and raised into this industry. My father, he when he was 12, 13 years old, started to work in the tire retread plants. And just as a part-time job after school and in between classes and whatever. And he got real familiar with the retreading world of things. And mid 80s or so, retreading on the passenger side of things, passenger tire side of things, started to phase out. And my father's sitting here thinking, well, what do we do with these tires now? And if I'm not focused on retreading, how do I refocus on end of life tires? And my father really was one of the pioneers in Colorado as far as setting up a tire recycling operation and tire shredding and tire baling and all of that good stuff. So really, I was born and raised in this industry, and have enjoyed all of my time in this industry, and continue to enjoy the challenges that we're all presented with, and how to make this industry better, and how to solve the problems that we all face. So, but really, I was born and raised into it.
Yeah, and those are the types of things I like to talk about, obviously, are some of those challenges, but we'll get there. Right now, I saw a video, so I'm learning more and more about rubber erosion, and I saw an old video, and I don't even know if you've seen it in a long time, on YouTube, and your kids were crawling around, and they're like, "What's that?" And it had to be maybe your wife is like, that's a new product we make. And all of this is just conversation in the background of a video you're trying to make of a product. And I'm watching that and I'm scrolling through the videos and I'm like, well, that's a really cool video. And I'm listening to the audio and it's just little baby voices. And it said it was 11 years ago. So you were testing some of these products that long ago, and those little baby voices are probably out of high school now. I can't. They might be a little bit older now than when that video was shot. But that's really, I mean, so from your dad's generation to you to having those kids crawling around your feet while you're trying to shoot a YouTube video, I mean, that's what it's all about, right? So
Yeah.
how's that transition, coming from your dad doing a lot of it sounds like the research and development, and now you've seen what's something, that you've seen that you've taken on, head on yourself and looking forward to, producing more of or anything like that going on?
Yeah, no, it's funny you found that video. It's we're very family oriented and very family oriented business. That's for sure. Um, but as far as what I saw, or what got us to where we are today, is just the fact of working through the family business, and constantly picking up tires, grinding tires. Tires never stop. They're always on, right? There's always customers needing new tires. They just never stop. It's always what's happening on the end use, or the backside of the markets, is where we're always kind of stuck trying to find how to keep things moving forward. And that's just always been in my family's mind from the start. We can take a tire, we can shred it, we can grind it, we can do different things with it, but at the end of the day, what do we do with that product that we've recycled? And that's where, rubber erosion and the pre-tread mindset really has kicked in. Is we have to find a product, we have to find a solution for these tires. And how do we find a product and a solution that will eat up all of the tires that we use in a daily or a yearly basis, right? And that's what's really formed our mindset of the end use tires. Is we have to find products, end use solutions that will consume all the waste that we generate. And it's it's taken generations to get where we're at today, and it's going to take future generations to help us get to where we want to go.
I couldn't
So
agree more. I couldn't agree more. And it's a lesson that we've kind of learned the hard way. I don't know if you've listened to some of Tire Reclaim's background. It's evident in many of the podcasts. So if you go down a rabbit's hole and watch a bunch of podcasts, you'll get an idea. But we're only 3 years old, but we've grown exponentially. So in that, what we've learned is exactly what you're talking about, and that's outlets, right? Legitimate outlets, high volume outlets, basically making it where the tires that come in have somewhere to go, right? And nobody wants them in a landfill. Even the landfills don't want them in a landfill. So you got to kind of work backwards from there. And had this to do all over again, it would be just that. Secure the outlets and then work your way backwards into collections. And I met some
yeah.
gentlemen doing collections in a region, and they're like, "Oh, I could have probably 15 more stores right now, but I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to wait. I'm going to get my collections because these guys that I got right now, I'm doing great. And I feel like if I go get these other stores, I'm not going to be able." And I told that guy that is great patience. And in our industries, that's really going to pay you dividends in the long run. And I think even since that conversation him and I had, he went out and got those customers, but he had to get right on his dock and with his
Mhm.
trucks and his men, and you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, are there some times that maybe you felt like, maybe is it a breakdown when you're shredding, that you started building up the flow and you thought, man, it's just too much. It's going to consume us. Did that have, maybe it was in COVID. I know a lot of people dealt with that in COVID. So I don't know. Have you had any of those big nightmare days?
Oh man, those are the everyday nightmares that you deal with. Those are the everyday challenges. But
Yeah.
no, you're absolutely right. A machine breaks down, a market takes a turn. There we sit on so many volatile points in our business, whether it's just straight up production or straight up delivery of product. Where do we go with it all? And you have to be able to move and shake. And yeah, that's where it all comes from. Is
So do you guys have any cement kilns or anything? Not everybody has that right up the road. Some of us do, some of us don't, and it can really move a market a lot in one way or the other. Do you have that kind of outlet around you, or truckable at least?
Yeah, interestingly enough, in Colorado, I mean, we've had a tire derived fuel market in Colorado since probably the mid to late 90s. Um, so we have had tire derived fuel in our market. Unfortunately, that's really been the only stable market that we've had in our region. we've had some folks dabble with crumb rubber and try and get into that market. It's very challenging. It's very cost apprehensive, if you will. It takes a lot
Yeah.
to get into that, right? So that's kind of been the challenge of Colorado or our area is, we've been a very TDF heavy market, and I know that's what's driven a lot of the inspiration and creativity from our businesses and myself in trying to find other outlets, other markets, other resources for the finished product. Um,
So when you're
so
sitting in that catbird seat and you have a decision to make of okay, and I don't even know what specific material or products you're making, but let's just say you're in the fork of the road. I got this mulch guy that's talking to me. I could get X amount of hundreds of tons next year, or I've got this. I could ramp up the TDF production, or I could maybe divert a little bit more to crumb. Like when you're sitting there right now, I see you're heavily promoting your building materials and things on rubbererosion.com, and those are some great looking products, by the way. And how do you decide like where to put your focus? So I know you got some focus on those. Is that because of the road aspect and stormwater aspect, or is it maybe the crumb because you see football fields are getting popular again? Like,
yeah, yeah.
tell me about that thought process when you.
No, that's a great question. When I set out to start up Rubber Erosion almost 12, 13 years ago, it was really a matter of what what end use market really needs a product made from recycled tires, right? And what's the size of that market? Do we even have a business, right? And then
Yeah.
you look at where am I going to get my crumb or my rubber from? Is there enough supply, right? So that was really number one, right? Do I have supply? Do I have an end use market? And now, okay, let's make that end use market happy. Let's make a product that suits their needs. And we found that with our erosion control products is, we had a raw material that we could make bagged products, we can make molded products, we could do a whole lot of different things with this raw material, right? So identifying our raw material suppliers and sources, and then identifying the end use markets were really key in lighting up rubber erosion, right? And making sure that the the recycled rubber material had a value that was different than traditional materials in the marketplace. Tire rubber had to demonstrate its place, its value in its performance in some shape or another to create value in our product line.
So
And that's
diving in,
that's
diving into
yeah,
that a little bit more. So is that's boots on the ground? That's you at construction sites? That's you talking to, or that's you seeing some sort of material on a site that you saw pallets and pallets and pallets of it. So you're like, I got to go try to replace that because I'm seeing pallets and pallets on these construction sites. Like again, just trying to get in your head a little bit. Like when you were seeing that happening, what was going on?
man, all of the above, it was seriously, you see a product, you're like, can I make that out of tires? That was like, question
Fair
number one
question.
for me.
Yeah, fair question.
But I would go out to job sites. I'd go out to these construction sites, and we had customers or clients coming to us, or potential clients, like, do you have a solution for erosion control or inlet protection? And I'm sitting here like, what are you even talking about? Right? I grind tires. And I started doing a little more research, a little more homework. I'm like, wow, there's some benefits to tires, to what these folks are looking for in the erosion control world. Let's start exploring this. So you start exploring it, and there's obviously the tire derived aggregate benefits are the same as just traditional aggregate, right? So
Hmm.
the filtration, the water penetration benefits, and things like that, and Then I started to look at the molded products and like, well, we can glue a bunch of stuff together and make any shape we want, any form we want, right? But we
Yep.
need drainage benefits. So if we make a shape and we want water to flow through it, how do we do that? So really, it was just a ton of trial and error. I mean, 2 to 3 years of trial and error, and God bless my wife for um, so, supporting me while I went through this process of finding what products worked and what didn't. And but it was really just tons of communication with clients, going to the job sites, seeing what worked, what didn't work, going back home, going back to the office. What I've got a pile of tires, I've got a pile of tire shreds, what works, what doesn't, and really just finding those mixes and matches that delivered a solution to the construction world and also delivered a solution to the tire recycling world as well. So,
An invoiceable product that you can ship to a job site, collect payment, and still pay all the bills that it costs to make that, right? It sounds novel, but it really
so
like,
easy.
right, it seems so easy, but there's so many things that can go wrong in that scenario. So, okay, so let's just say you track down some materials, you've got, some I mean, are they like literally inventions? So you're showing guys brand new, this is what we're making, that it used to be this that you bought. Now I want you to use this. That must be where like YouTube clips came in. I noticed you had quite a few of those where you can just direct somebody, say, hey, if you want to see how this drains or installs, this is this, and then you can promote with that. Is that kind of where I saw that digital footprint come from?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's, you know, you try and tell someone, I can get a tire to do this for you. And they're like, what are you talking about? It's going to sort water and filter water. And what are you talking about? Right. So you
Yeah.
really just had to get out in front of the clients, demonstrate the product, real life demonstrations. Um, and yeah, you have to be boots on the ground in front of your client with your client, really trying to figure out what you're trying to solve and the best steps of how to get there.
Right. So that's the erosion. Now, you mentioned pre-tread. Now, you were involved. Are you still involved with the production of those barriers, the concrete barrier replacement?
Yeah, absolutely. So pre-tread is hitting things full speed ahead right now. Um, you know, to take it back or put it in perspective, right? Rubberosion was a self-funded company by my wife and I. We started it 12, 13 years ago. About the same time we were starting that company, pre-tread was in the background as well, trying to figure out how to launch products, the best way to launch products, and went through a series of fundraising efforts. And in 2020, we secured or pre-trade secured fundraising and really lit our first product and facility expansion at that point. So
Because you
um,
guys, there's a Jomar system, right? And pre-tread has a crumb rubber facility. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So pre-tread has been hot and heavy, right? So pre-tread has a full line of rubber barriers that can be used in highway applications, non-highway applications, all of that fun stuff. And as we proved out that product, we applied for a grant through the state of Colorado.
Hmm.
This has been a long time coming, but we applied through for a grant and were awarded this grant through the state of Colorado to allow us to create our own feedstock to make our finished molded products.
Hmm.
So super blessed to have that opportunity and um, through that opportunity, we've been able to really create a quality product, a quality program, and really be able to demonstrate uh, to the outside world what we're trying to do as far as taking a tire in a problem in and manufacture, create a finished product out on the backside is what our true mission is.
That's our mission as well, on a much smaller scale over here in little Idaho, sitting on our island. But we look
Yeah.
up to guys like you, and we follow on LinkedIn, or I do personally. I know a lot of my colleagues do as well. And you guys are up to big things, and we see that, and it really encourages us because we know Colorado's full of hardworking, red-blooded Americans too, and we're America first around here, and we have our own American made. I can't speak on it too much, but we have our own American made project getting ready to take off in the manufacturing. So we're going to close that circle soon enough. And yeah, and it'll be American made. We're excited about that. But back to rubber erosion, because sorry, I had another question on that. Was it your father that discovered a lot of that permeation? Because I noticed a lot of your products have that where it's draining through the rubber. I see so many guys using rubber as a solid, but this
Right, right.
one, yeah, this is done a little bit different. So again, I'm going to peel you away from that topic, and I want to ask a little bit more about the product. So that permeation that allows, I mean, that you mentioned water draining, but it's also filtering. And there's a lot of things that can happen because you have all those edges. So there's a lot of things because I actually come from an organic side background in composting, and I know what green slime is. And
Yeah.
you can grow a lot of good organics in some of these rubber products that the rocks and things might not do as well. So I noticed that you do a lot of with the permeation. Can you talk on that a little bit about how you got, you know, how you figured, well, we could use this stuff for draining and those sacks. You had to find those perfect bags, I'm sure, too.
Right, right. Yeah, no, it's interesting. So, some of my background, I took a brief pause from the family business to go to school, and got a job while I was going to school, and found an awesome job selling landscape material.
Mm,
So I learned composting, I learned mulch, I learned where all this stuff came from, what it did in the world, how it was supposed to work. And through that whole education process of landscape mulch and composting and figuring out how to make that stuff and what it was used for, I go back to work for the family business in the tire world and go back to mulch and track fields and just kind of the standards of what we've all been doing for a while. And um, I just kind of had a moment in time where I had clients asking for certain things, and I'm doing research on tires, and I'm just like, just kind of have this moment of, well, tires could drain and filter material. It could be shaped and formed in different sizes and shapes and whatever. I'm like, what am I missing here? Like, how can I not? Well, maybe we mold rubber, and so it was kind of a formulation of work that had come from the landscape side of things, infrastructure, from just tire recycling, and just kind of had an epiphany of, we can make a product out of a tire that could serve a lot of purposes. And that's really how rubber erosion started. And we started with the bagged product, the rubber wattle, a very simple product of just bagging crumb rubber or a half-inch material in a bagged product. The bag itself, the geotextile that it goes into, it's got to be the right geotextile. It depends on how much flow that the job site has, what kind of contaminants, what kind of debris you're trying to filter from those job sites. So there is some science that goes into the fabric, or the fabric that goes into the filter media, the size of shreds that goes into the filter media. All of those different things go into that or into the scope of work. Um, and then our molded products. So we took that bagged product and took that to a molded product. So if we can take loose rubber and filter and do everything that we needed to, how could we do that in a molded product and change the application, or expand the application of the product, right?
Hmm.
So we started to mold the products, and that's where a lot of time and effort, a lot of trial and error came in, is what size of product, how much compression, how long, all that fun stuff started to come in.
What drain size, what drain style, what type of, like you said, what construction site and what kind of debris and stuff. It makes perfect sense. Like you would have to literally get out and go see because some of those are covering drains and you're like, oh man, we just made 14,000 of these and they're a foot short for the
It,
city of Denver, or something like that. So
yeah,
you better
yeah.
go out and look around.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with drainage, there's a lot of you have EPA requirements, you have national building standard requirements
Oh,
that
I'm
you have to
glad.
meet.
Yeah, I'm glad you
So
brought that up.
as we were building this product, we had to meet a flow rate, we had to meet a sediment capture rate, we had all kinds of requirements to meet that no tire product had ever met before, right? So, we're going in for all this testing and things like that, and people are like, "Well, what are you testing?" I'm like, "We're testing a rubber filtration mat." I'm like, "Well, what?" Because normally people are testing a geotextile or something very standard or a pipe or something like that. And I'm like, you're testing a rubber mat. I'm like, what? And
No, I'm
these
really glad
rubber
you brought
mats
that up.
start coming back with test results that were promising or above industry standards. Like, wait, what are you doing?
Right.
So
No,
it's
that
a lot of fun.
like I said, I'm glad you brought that up because that was something that I wrote in my notes that I wanted to talk about too is did you get any pushback from the DEQ, from your Colorado DEQ, EPA and those guys? And then what did those hoops look like? Because I know for us on some of this TDA tire derived aggregate roads we're headed down, no pun intended, with the Idaho Transportation Department is a lot of pre-work, a lot of you need to be in this materials manual or you literally can't be put on an Idaho, like there's all these different stages that we're or hoops we're jumping through right now. I assume there were some of those. You've been fighting those a long time, and I might be calling you later on some of that stuff, but yeah, how did the DEQ treat you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great question. The DEQ for the most part was great. They're like, "Oh, you're going to do something with tires? Yeah,
Yeah,
amen. Go get it. Go do it. Go get it." Right? But then on the other side of the DEQ or the health department, where they're monitoring stormwater, right, that have nothing to do with tires, right? They were a little more apprehensive, to be honest. All right, they're used to using very traditional products, manufactured products. So to go in and be like, "I'm going to filter your stormwater with tires,"
tires, right.
that raised a lot of questions like, really? How are you going to
Yeah,
do that? Right. So it was a challenge. It was a challenge, right? I mean, we had to go through a lot of just industry testing, of how we were going to filter water and uh, were were our test results consistent with other products that have been tested in the market, and how do we compare those results and make our results consistent with other people's results and things like that. So that's a challenge that we had to walk down in order to get our products approved and on APLs and things like that. And we continue to walk through those same challenges every day, from state to state. It's something we say in house is we're the United States of America, but we're essentially 50 different states with 50 different laws and 50 different rules and 50 different regulations,
true.
right? And
Yep.
we have to travel through all 50 different roads. So that's what we continue to do is, you pass one state, now it's on to the next. And what do we need to do to pass this state's regulations? And is the last state's regulations good enough, or is there a different bar that we need to meet to get into this next state? So that's kind of how the process has been.
Do you think it's easier or more difficult? Well, I get what states seem more applicable to in indoctrinate something like these types of programs, something that's a state that's very heavy subsidy driven, and they got a lot of cash for tires, or like Idaho where there's no subsidies, like where everything's out of pocket. Do you think it kind of benefits when you have a lot of that grant money and things available to do those types of things? Or do you think it's better just the good old capitalist way and charge what you can and do it the way you can?
Yeah, that boy, that's a really good question. That's a loaded question there too.
Sorry, yeah. You don't have to answer it. It's just the things that we're seeing, right? So we went for a tire recycling bill with a little bit of rebates and some, a dollar charge. Actually, ended up dropping it, presented it as a 50 cent per tire for every retail, tire purchase, that type of thing, to generate a fund to clean up waste tire piles and also have a rebate on different product types. I think you have a similar one. Utah copied from you. We were trying to copy from Utah, and it died. There's a few technicalities, but I sat with many senators, and they had a hard time with a fee, right? That no new taxes, and it didn't help that Doge and all of that was going on really hard while I was
Right,
down at the
right.
Capitol, so they didn't want to talk about any new taxes or fees. But so we saw that, but do you see that as a benefit for your company or other companies when there is a little bit of help that way, or at least that they see that there's a problem and they're trying to throw some money at it?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a great question. And you know, most of the states tried to come up with solutions for tire problems in the late 90s, early 2000s, right? There was a lot of
Yep.
programs that were lit up from state to state to try and find the right the secret answer that would help us deal with the tire problems, right? And then probably 10 years ago, we saw some of those programs kind of fade out and some kind of morphed. And I almost feel like we're entering version 2.0 of state programs right now because we've had about 20 years of history to be able to go back and look at what programs worked, what programs didn't work, how were they structured. And I think that's what we're doing right now is honestly going back through the last 20 years and trying to figure out the good, the bad, and the ugly, right?
Yeah.
What does work and what doesn't work. Um, so I definitely understand the situation that you and your state were in this year. Um, as far as programs, I think it's necessary for states to have a program to deal with their tires because we're really good at hauling tires. We're really good at sorting tires. I'd say we're getting better at processing tires, and we're still at the very beginning of marketing a finished tire product, right? There's a lot of work to do uh, as far as marketing a finished tire product, end use product, whatever it might be. So we've got some time, but to have state support, state funding to help us do that, that's obviously a plus.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's very important to have um, the state and the industry in agreement of what the end goal is. Is it to market, to find end use markets? Is it to manage the tires? Is it to haul the tires? What is the true purpose of a program? And there may be multiple purposes within a program, but they clearly need to be defined.
Hmm.
Um,
You're not the
and
first person I've heard say that. And it's usually right around transportation or that you should give someone told me you should give all the money to the collectors and the transporters because that's where it should start, but he was a transporter and collector. So, it's kind of
right,
like,
right.
and then the manufacturer might say, no, we're the ones that are making the actual product. So we need, so I think that it is, again, 50 different ways to do it is what I've witnessed in the 50 United States of America, much to your
Yeah,
point earlier, right?
yeah,
So when I went to a conference in Atlanta last year, I don't know if you were, I didn't see you at that conference,
yeah.
but it, every conversation I had that I asked about it, was different in every state. So it's really, kind of what's best for your area type thing. But I heard you loud and clear that it does help to have a program, and we have the legacy piles to prove it, right? So
Yeah.
yeah. So when you don't have a program, then things can happen. But we are good to hear. I just got some emails. We are getting fired back up, us and Liberty, getting back down to the paper and drafting up something to try again next year. So we're excited about that. Well,
Yeah.
is there anything? I know we get talking here, man. You'll be on here for 2 hours. We'll have like a full-on Joe Rogan 3 hour episode. But was there anything that you specifically wanted to talk about that maybe I didn't touch on today?
You know, the only thing, I mean, nothing in particular. What you're doing is awesome. This podcast is awesome. Just to be able to talk about what we're doing, bounce ideas, bounce struggles off of each other, and just have a conversation and be able to share it with others in the industry is huge. So
Thank
I
you.
love what you're doing, and I I've been in this industry. My family's been in this industry for a long time. And I would say over the last 5 years, this is the first time I've really seen the industry talk openly with each other. Um, it seems like we're at a point now where we're we're not an unsavvy business. We're a pretty savvy industry. I
Right.
would say we're still way under the radar from most other industries, and we probably don't get the credit, don't get the light, the limelight that maybe we should in some cases. But I think our industry is really it's in an exciting time right now. We're really starting to turn as far as understanding there is value in the tires. There's value in what we do. There's value in the market, in the economy. There's value in rules and regulations on how we operate as an industry. And I think the next 10 years is going to be a very exciting time for our industry and what we create.
That's very well said. I agree, and we're the newcomers, right? And we're coming in, and I'll give credit on the podcast and a lot of these marketing strategies to Brett Eckhart and his team, Recycled Media, and those guys being forefront on the podcast and opening up the dialogues and the networking. I was blown away by how many tire recyclers want to talk, right? Like they really want to talk because they've been in this industry, some of them for 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and they're all had to do their business like this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Every single one of them because people were trying to steal from them and steal ideas and take their outlets and so much. And I think that as you say, it's becoming more of an open industry. And you got to remember, like, our partners and our friends in the metals, they've been recycling metal for a long time, right? Since the dawn of time, basically. Tires and cars are still fairly new in the timeline of life, right? So
absolutely.
recycling tires is catching on, and I think it's like you say, the conversations are more open, and I agree, and getting more spotlight at some of the recycling conferences I've noticed, even
Yeah.
Waste Expo and some of them recognizing, man, we're having a lot more people ask about tires. Well, yeah, it's a waste. And I think just because they're pretty and round and easily stackable, that nobody, if those were bags of trash, all you'd ever hear about was tires, right? But
Right.
anyway, I digress on that topic. But tires are a waste, and I think it's important that we continue to talk, right? And that's really what I'm trying to do at Tire or Talking Tires and Tire Reclaim is just something new, something that we're not used to and getting us out of that comfort zone. Like I surely wasn't comfortable coming and exposing myself in my ignorance, still learning a lot, but I have no problem exposing that and asking more questions because that's how you learn, right? So I even have my daughter, Chloe, who's with me today, got out early last day of school.
All
And
right.
I'm very proud to have her here witnessing, a podcast on a cutting edge industry that to me is like, foundational to a strong recycling footprint in Idaho. Like we had some big issues, or we have some big issues in Idaho, and this is where we live and hunt and fish. So to me, I take it very personal if I see a big pile of tires dumped out in the middle of where I go hunting or fishing. So, and all of my friends and family as well. So it's something that, I think it's good for us all to talk about, but I don't want to keep you too long. I really appreciate your time. I learned a lot. I hope our viewers and listeners did too. And you know what? Just keep on keeping on, man. I think you're doing a great job, and I really, really am. We're enjoying a lot of the things that pioneers like yourself set forward. So I just want to thank you for that, and just keep doing it, man.
No, thank you, Craig. This has been awesome. I appreciate your time. Appreciate everything you're doing out there. It's going a long ways, man.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.